στην εκπομπή 24 ώρες Ευρώπη, άλλη μία φορά από εδώ, από το Ευρωπαϊκό Κοινοβούλιο, στις Βρυξέλλες αυτή τη φορά, για ένα πολύ ωραίο επεισόδιο. Welcome to the European TV show 24 Hours Europe, this time from the European Parliament in Brussels. It's time to meet tonight's guests. Today with us is Mr. Herman de Croo, a Belgian politician of the Open Flemish Liberals and Democrats, first elected in March 1968. He is the longest-serving Belgian member of the Parliament, serving uninterrupted until 2019. He is the father of Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo. Mr. De Croo, welcome to our TV show. It is our honor to host you in this special episode.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy you are in Brussels.
And also with us, the director of kappanews.gr, Yannis Koutsomitis. Yannis, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay, let's start. Mr. De Croo, after decades of relative calm, Europe is facing security and geopolitical challenges. What do you think is the best way for the European Union to address these challenges?
Well, Europe is a successful enterprise, and I'm very glad that Greece came to join us when you have irradiated the dictatorship in Greece, because Europe is a democratic, open union. And I believe that in the world of tomorrow, as in the world of today, with 500 million inhabitants, with the great, I would say, success for non-Europeans trying to join our countries, to be strong together, to be strong with the same money, is a guarantee to keep our social, I would say, results and to keep our freedom. So I think we have to cherish Europe, absolutely.
Yannis?
Yes, I think definitely these are very challenging times for European Union. We have two wars in our
At the same time.
neighborhood, one in Ukraine and one in the Middle East. We have to keep united. And I think one of the biggest challenges in European Union right now is to have a common approach towards the geopolitical challenges that we face from Russia on the one hand and in the Middle East on the other hand. I think the European leadership is doing a good job at the moment. Of course, there are disagreements from some European countries. Of course, every country has its own national interests, which are represented in various ways. But we have to remember, whenever there is a big crisis in Europe, at the end, in the beginning we may disagree, but at the end we have a common approach. So I'm a bit optimistic of how we can come out of this crisis, and I think this is the moment to create new installations, new foundations, to work on the pillar of defense and security, which was a bit neglected in the previous decades. And now we face a new era of a common future for the European Union. So I think on the one hand, yes, we have challenges, but I'm optimistic that we can come together and bring new forces in the European Union.
Do you want to comment about
I agree fully. And more than that, we have to create a European army. We have to be strong and democratic. You know, what we did as a reaction to the invasion by Russia of Ukraine was exceptional. We could cut almost our energy, cheap energy from Russia. We could survive to resist to the pressure of that great country in size, and we could come together as a, I would say, force, democratic, with defending our values. And which is exceptional is in Brussels here, we have the meetings of the head of state and prime ministers. Do you know, when they meet without collaborators, they are alone. They don't have connections with their mobile phone. They have to debate themselves, and this kind of debate, well prepared between the top of our countries, Prime Minister of Greece, President of France, is creating a spirit which was absent in the past. Of course, we need diplomats. Of course, we need a good civil service. Of course, we have a European bank. But the fact that people can come together, we can say at the table, I am elected. I'm here on behalf of the people. I'm here on the behalf of a democracy. So please let us save Europe. And one of the main problems, beside the many problems we have cited, is migration. You know, if we were I would say, backwards continent, why would we have billions of people, millions of people to come to join us? We have in my country, Belgium, the tiny country, more than 120,000 illegals living in this country. If we were a poor, if we were a dictatorship, if we were something unhappy, nobody throughout the world would really aspire for one thing: how can I go to Europe? And that is an important impact, especially with the continent. We are very close to Africa.
Okay, Yannis?
Yes. I think we need to discuss that further, but I totally agree with Mr. De Croo about this issue. Yes.
Okay, let's go to this. Migration has become a key point of division in European societies. How can we overcome the consequences of irregular migration and reap the benefits of legal migration?
By unity. You know, it is normal that migration is coming from the south, and that the countries on the south of Europe, Greece, Italy, Spain, are the countries where people is arriving. But we have to be very attentive. First of all, to care that not the best people is leaving the poor countries. It is not fair from us to keep our doctors in medicine or engineers or people training in Congo, in African countries, and just to empty the country of the people they need. So we have to be very attentive that we keep brilliant people, that we help to pay them in the so-called developing countries. Two, we have to work together. If I live in a small country with a small seaside of the country, I cannot live in my country without being attentive to the port of Antwerp, the port of Bruges, where is the entrance of great import of people, of all what you wish. If you take Europe as a large, you have to take care with Greece, with Italy, with the islands, with Spain. So there must be solidarity to do three things. First of all, to see that people who could receive asylum in this country will be, I would say, scrutinized, examined when they reach for the first time the without boundaries being Europe. Two, that it can be useful here for themselves and for our society. Three, that we are not killing their civilization or their economy by taking away the best ladies and the best gentlemen from their countries to try to help us to be more prosperous. So unity in policy for migration is very important for Greece, is capital.
Okay, Yannis?
Yes, I totally agree with Mr. De Croo. I just may add that since Greece and Italy and Spain are facing tremendous challenges because of the flows, we have to find ways to keep to work on the borders more accurately and help the people that are in real need to reach asylum and to have their applications being examined. On the other hand, we have to work more on development in Africa. And I know Mr. De Croo can tell us a lot more about from his experience in Africa, and I'm waiting to hear from him. But what I think is the best way is to try to work together with African countries in order to help them develop their economies, develop their societies. They have so many talented people. if they create good, prosperous societies, then the flows will not be so extreme as we have experienced in the last years. We have to come together. Of course, we have seen some examples like the agreement that has been done with Tunisia, which is still not working very well. But I think it was a good idea from the beginning to try to work with local governments for incentives and also for stemming the flows of irregular migration. So I think it's a very delicate problem because it is challenging also for domestic politics in European countries. We see that a lot of radical parties are gaining momentum because of this imbalance that is happening in some countries, and we have to be united. And of course, I agree with Mr. De Croo, unity and also foresight about how to create partnerships with African countries for the next decades.
And we have also to be careful because we're waiting the upcoming European elections.
Yes. Yes.
Well, European elections is democracy. But to give you some figures, in Central Africa, but I could say Black Africa, if I may say that, the population will, in a few decades, be higher than 2 billion. The full population of the United Europe, one day it can be done, will be 500 million. So you have 4 times more people in a few decades in Black Africa, in Central Africa, as in Europe. If you don't take that in your perspective, you could not survive here. You will destroy their countries and you will destroy, thanks, if I could say, hélas, the righteous people living on the fear of the people, saying we need to be a white society, civilization, is stupid. They have nothing to do with the world evolution. If we follow this extremist of the right, the populist of Europe, we will kill Europe. You know, in Brussels, it's a very international city. It is the big square of Europe. NATO is here, European institutions, even the parliament today where we are. In Brussels, 42% are from Belgian origin. 58 are from non-Belgian origin. Could be people from countries of Europe, of course, a great number, from France, from Italy, from Greece, but a great number is coming from abroad. And why is that? Because if you have big colonies in the past, people have a family here. Where does the migrants go? To the countries where they have connections. We have the same religion, the Christian religion in Central Africa. So we are a selected place, but we have not to fight against that. We have to utilize that. We have to take care of that and to make it a positive element, not a negative element. Because the profits of I would say, the deperdition, the loss of Europe, they are killing Europe if we have no, I would say, collaboration, working together. If you see the African countries, which I know quite well, very well, we have a responsibility. Most of our countries, France, Italy, Great Britain, outside the Europe now, are colonizators. They have implemented a lot of elements there in the past generations. We need to be careful that we will not be over-invaded if we are not, I would say, positive towards the people working and living in those countries.
Europe's enlargement process has been stalled in recent years, partly due to widespread skepticism in several member states. How should the Europe proceed with Ukraine's and the Western Balkan countries' membership bids?
Well, first of all, the new countries in the past having joined Europe had to pass a very important examination. Are you a democracy or are you not a democracy? Spain could only join us when the dictatorship was gone. Portugal could only join Europe when the dictatorship was gone. Greece could only join Europe when the colonials, the dictatorship was gone. So the first test is, are you a stable, I would say, durably democracy? Second, are you able to the competition? If you make the same money, the euro, which was created almost 25 years ago. If you have one hole in the bat where the economy is running out, your common money will not survive. So you need a certain number of rules that you suppose the new candidates can handle economically, can handle with their structure, can handle with their knowledge of, I would say, intelligentsia in their country. So we are very severe. I remember Turkey is waiting to join Europe, if they join one day Europe, since decades. And we try now to accelerate the process, because behind and close to Europe are a military dictatorship, Russia, are the so-called new invasion by China. As a lot of things that we have to defend ourselves to be prosperous, not as a negative element, but as a positive element. So I believe that the conditions to join Europe, Greece waited for almost 20 years before joining Europe, and we are so happy you are there. But we have to very strict on the conditions under which countries can join us. It is open. I'm chairman of a European institution in traffic security. We know the differences between the so-called east of Europe in the past and the so-called west of Europe in the past. We have to bridge all those things. We have to be persuaded in the world of tomorrow, with 8 or 9 billion people, a small continent, high civilization, high economy, with 500 million cannot survive if not united. So I am pleading all my life for this kind of respectful cooperation, but also effective reunification of our countries. Perhaps one day, the United States of Europe.
Yanis.
Yes, I totally agree. I would just have to add that there is a historical, I think, and moral duty from the European Union to invite Ukraine, Moldova, and the Western Balkan countries to join the process of becoming members in the European Union. But I totally agree, we have to stick to the rules of the accession so that these economies can be competitive when they join, to be competitive economies, competitive societies, and the rule of law is a very, very sensitive issue. There has to be respect of rule of law in every candidate country, because we have seen in the recent years that some countries have a degradation of the rule of law standards, which is not compatible with the European values. But it is our duty to invite them to join the process, and during these years of the accession process, they will have the opportunity to make advances in their economy and the judicial system and the society, so they can be part of the European family. So I'm in favor of all that, but I would also like to add to have some reforms in the institutional framework of the European Union, because we have seen that some member states try to use the veto in the process of the voting process in order to stall some decisions in irrelevant matters in order to gain national interests. We have to have a reform of the treaties so that there is a special majority in some very important questions, so that the significant issues of the European Union are not being blackmailed by some bad-meaning member states.
In addition to that, the soul, the heart of Europe is withdrawing the boundaries inside the Europe. So we have the same nationality, European. We can travel freely to all the countries of the Union. The goods and products and the capital can flow freely. We have to be very attentive not to lose those important features. We are not a kind of, I would say, country bloc to fight against somebody, to dispute with Americans, to survive after the pushes of China or the big future of India or the strength of Russia. So we have to increase the size of our continent, but not losing the values for which we have created Europe. First the values, afterwards the enlargement.
I totally agree with you.
If I may add, Joanna,
yes, of course.
just a small note,
Yes.
because I had some years ago, I had an interesting discussion with the Russian ambassador in EU, who is a very seasoned and very experienced ambassador, diplomat of Russia, and I was asking him about the resistance of Russia against the agreement between Greece and Northern Macedonia, because they didn't want to have this matter to be solved. And he told me, Mr. Koutsomitis, you want this country to join NATO and European Union, but in 1944, our leader, Joseph Stalin, made an agreement with Mr. Churchill and Mr. Roosevelt that Yugoslavia will be 50% in the sphere of the Soviet Union and Russia. Do you think that this agreement is not valid anymore? We think that it is valid. So you're trying to change the dynamics of an agreement that happened 70, 80 years ago. And I was struck immediately saying, oh my God, these people still think in a way of 1940s, of World War II dynamics. So I think it is our historical duty to break this ideology of, let's say, big power ideology and bring all of European countries within the European family and break this stupid superpower ideology.
If you see, we had recent years an epidemic. Did it resist to the boundaries? Did the disease ask to pass from one country to another? Did they go to the customs and say, may I pass with my infection, with my disease, to go to Greece or to go to Russia? Stupid as an approach, but you are right. Russia is the biggest country on earth in size, but they have only 140 million people. They cannot run that country in the future. And I think they are afraid that if the boundaries are disappearing, it will be an outlet in their own size, and that could reduce the power of the ruling class, of not to say the ruling gang.
Elite.
I don't say gangs. I prefer to say gang than elite.
Okay, let's go to technology and to see the artificial intelligence, which creates serious moral and political challenges. Do you think the European Union can successfully regulate high technology without creating too many counterproductive productive obstacles?
If Europe cannot regulate it, who will regulate it? You know, there's nothing new. When the first textile machines in Manchester were working 200 years ago, they were destroyed by the workers because they believed they were taking away their jobs. When we had at the beginning of the trains, people was opposing because was afraid it were going to change the moral size of the place where they were living. If we believe that we could stop the artificial intelligence, that, you know, I was at the given moment Minister of Transport in this country, and there was the beginning of the portable, and the engineers of the telecommunication were telling me, Mr. Minister, we have 6 or 7 million people who have a telephone. You have to count 10% will have a portable. 10% will have a portable. Today, 300% has a portable. And in my library, I have a big dictionary of Diderot, the first dictionary from 1735. It is 2 meters high. When I put my telephone next to the pile of the 20 or 47 volumes, the wisdom of these things is 100 times the wisdom of the 27 volumes. That is the future. And who can regulate an institution democratic enough protected against the lobbies, strong enough to see rules to be observed because there is a great market, and only Europe could do that. But it will go fast, you know. It will be much faster than these things in my pocket.
Yanis.
Yes, of course, I agree. And this is a great opportunity for the European Union to be a leader in regulation around the world, because we have seen discussions also in the United States and also in Great Britain and in Far East on how to deal with this very sensitive issue. I think we are in a good way right now, and I think there is great knowledge that we had from the Digital Policies Act that was enacted a few weeks ago, which brought all the big technology companies in the world trying to change their way of working to be regulated by European standards. So this is a great opportunity to have European standards being the world standards for this amazing technology. But of course, I agree there are certain risks involving how much power, how much authority will the machines get in the decision-making process. If I think humans and democratic institutions retain the decision-making process, then of course we can utilize the strength of these new technologies to make lives, everyday lives better, to make traffic lights more efficient, to make transport trains more efficient, to make the way we live in our own house more easy, more smart, and find solutions for things what we had to spend hours and energy in the previous decades or millennium, and now try to concentrate on the real creative issues that humankind can make progress in the future. So yes, European Union can be a leader in this field, of course, if we make quick decisions. If we go by the usual trilateral dialogue and it will last for 2 or 3 years, then we will be behind the developments. We have to act very quickly in this field.
But we have the power to do it because we can produce. We can not only control, but we can produce. And it's right that what the world needs is conformity. When they invented the metrical system, there were 10,000 different ways to measure, I would say, sizes. Then we came into a metrical system, which was universal. We have to reach universal elements for competition, for safety. And I think Europe is strong enough as enough intelligent power, scientists, innovation, to not to impose rules, but invite people to make with Europe the common rules for this new technology.
Mr. De Croo, you have a vast and valuable experience of how a constitutional federalist system can work in a democratic state such as Belgium. Do you think that the Belgian federal system could also work on Cyprus, a country that faces decades of a painful division?
I hope so. I hope so because, every system can work. When people decide it has to work. We had the epidemic in our country. We have 2 regions with different systems. They came together and they were active in uniting some differences. So I do not believe in the fate of different systems. If the people decide it will work, it can work. And why do they decide that? Because it is better for the people that progress can be worked and can be utilized. So I believe that the frontier, I went to Cyprus, that it will disappear one day. But much of the divisions in the world are not the fact of the people being divided, but the fact of the countries which are liking that the division would be there. So there's the third parties outside of the divided country which are important. Europe was fighting, we have 2 big world wars, civil wars with tens of millions of victims between 1940 and 1980, between 1939 and 1945. And we are a united country. The Germans, the Belgians, the French, which were fighting for decades, centuries, are friends and I would say allies. So it is possible also for the very beautiful country you were speaking about.
Yanis.
Yes, of course, Belgium is a great example on how 2 different national communities can work together and create a just, a balanced and a prosperous country. If they, of course, I agree, if they believe in a just system. If we only have suspicion of one community working against the other, then no system will be good enough. The trust has to become first, and then the federalist or any other system can work. But I think Belgium has a very fine constitutional basis, which could work also for Cyprus as well.
Mr. De Croo, I would like to thank you for participating in our TV show. It's an honor for us.
It is a pleasure for me.
Yanis, once again, I would like to thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. It's been a pleasure and an honor to sit next to Mr. De Croo.
Thank you. Bravo.
Do you know any other Greek words? Greek words, except from bravo?
No.
Kalimera.
No, Kalimera is
Kalimera.
bonjour.
Bonjour. Kalimera can mean something else also. That is Kalimero.
And Kalinichta, bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Dear friends, thanks for watching us. Next week, as always, from the European Parliament.
Η τριχοφυΐα δεν είναι δεδομένη. Είναι θέμα επιλογής. Μόνιμη ανώδυνη αποτρίχωση. Vivify.